And it will be about 4 slides that I'll speak to specifically. The others I'll just be demonstrating and showing examples of what I'm talking about. So when I say next, it will be, I think, to Bonnie for him to go to the next slide, just like that. Now, let me just piggyback on what you just said, Tim, and say that I was born in Alexander Township, and I was born in a struggle. A 4 square mile area, it teaches you quite a lot within a short space of time, even when you're young. Now, the people that are around us here today may ask, what has bus boycotts got to do with anything? Now, I would want you to know that from a very early age, I was born in an area that has actually historically gave examples of successful boycotts. 1943, the bus boycott in Alexander Township were successful. 1944, they were successful. And I was born in 1950. The next bus boycotts in Alexander Township were in 1957. Now, the 43 and 44 bus boycotts precedes the Montgomery bus boycotts by 12 and 11 years. And yet history teaches you about Rosa Parks. I will talk from an Alexander perspective about Roseanne Pather, who participated in all those boycotts. And they work. I was born in a community that civic education is the norm. 4 out of 5 days participated in civic education about burning issues, any burning issue. It's no longer the same thing. But I wanted to give this an example that we started with bus boycotts. We went to consumer boycotts. And from consumer boycotts, the international economic sanctions that you know about were literally building up to that with one objective in mind. It was not to reform apartheid. It was literally to obliterate it because it's a heresy. It is a heresy. Now, let me just quickly move on to the second example. My grandfather told me that this one comes from Biafra. Tim, I'm not arguing whether it comes there or not. That it takes a village to raise a child has got roots across Africa. But believe it or not, we are told that Hillary Clinton has popularized this. All of a sudden, imagine this coming from yourself. And all of a sudden, it is appropriated to somebody else. As we learn, unlearn, and relearn, I would want to believe that some things we should keep if they work for us. Look at how I turned out to be, Tim. And it might not just be myself alone. It might be a number of us. All of you in this conference today, you're judicious activists. I'll come back to indicate what I mean by that. But the point I want to make is that as we unlearn things, we start learning wrong things, and we must avoid learning wrong things. Individualism on its own breeds all sorts of things, because once you start learning that, moving away from the community spirit that you come from, you start actually believing that everybody for himself and God for us all. Now, where would you go if God is that vengeful? You start chasing gods, not your own. The last example that I wanted to give on this slide is the fact that we know from Agri of Africa that if you want to educate a person, educate a man. If you want to build a nation, educate a woman. That's relearning. Women are nation builders. Men, by and large, most of them happen to be more of mongers on war and what have you. I'm not saying there are women who don't fight wars. In fact, they are best generals historically that we can point to. Next slide, Bonnie. Can we go to the next slide? Here, I just wanted to let you know that there is value and there are benefits in civic education. My topic was talking about active citizenship. Without civic education, active citizenship is nothing. You need to actually have a purpose to build a nation. And active citizenship is getting its conscience and soul out of civic education. I just gave you an Alexander example of an Alexander boy who moved and knew about the history of the bus boycotts more than the Montgomery bus boycotts. I'm going to give a second example here and say again, all of you that are participating in this conference today, I want to christen you judicial activists because you're conscientized. And you're conscientized not only by the Fatherland Group, but by yourselves. And you need that in order to go forward because that's your energy level. The other example that I'm giving there about the value of these two, you will read them because I believe we can share this slide and all the presentations that are given. Can we go to the next slide quickly? Now, here I want to give you an example that civic education promotes the first, second, and third national prize. The first is a family, the second is a community, and the third is a nation. It boils back to that which you bring your children in. It starts with the family. Civic education starts right there. Now, anyone who thinks they get civic education outside of the family, well, you may get it from church, but now you're chasing God, not your own. You may get it somewhere else. And wherever you get it, it has to consolidate your family, your community, and your nation to speak to your aspirations and those of your nation. Now, can we move to the third slide, Bonnie? This is the one that I want to speak to. In one of the breakaway sessions, an example was made about the United States that they have a shared vision that is explained by the flag. And maybe we need to turn around that flag in order to communicate strong messages. But here's an example. You go to the Olympics, the American flag is at the winning line. And the rest of us, we have to run the stadium again to get your flag. You need to be proud of your flag if it has meaning. In fact, you look at the Americans, quite often they think they are the best. Look at the people who play that sport called football. They have the cheek of calling it, and they hardly kick it. When they win, they say we are the champions of the world, and the world has not shown in the United States. That's what I mean by saying quite often they are. What about us? I don't think there is an African country that has got a shared vision, that has got a shared psyche. I don't think so, but you can correct me. Now, the reason it is like that is so that we start chasing lizards rather than crocodiles. Now, tell me, in South Africa, what is our shared vision? You don't know. Before Madiba came out of jail, it was apartheid. And that's why we wanted it out of our way. That system had to be out of our way. Now, Madiba came out of jail. What was our vision there? Literally, the dreams of Madiba. And those dreams look like they are now nightmares. What is the psyche of South Africa now? Many people say corruption, but what do we know about the corruption in the UK? Many people say crime. What do we know about the crime in Yugoslavia? What interest have we got in those places? We need to say it more than a football club, more than the Eagles in Nigeria. What is your shared psyche? The same thing with every country. Every one of the countries in Africa do not have a shared psyche. But at Fatherland, you have a shared psyche at Fatherland. The Fatherland Group has a vision, a shared vision. All of you share that. You wouldn't be here this today if you didn't share that vision, if you didn't share that psyche. It's a Saturday. You would have been somewhere else. But you're here today because the vision, that vision of the Fatherland Group makes sense to you. That psyche of the Fatherland vision must be translated into the psyche of Nigeria. If you can keep on improving it. Now, I said I'm christening all of you judicious activists today. There is a reason for that. How do you turn disciples into prophets? That's what the Fatherland is trying to do with all of us, so that we are prophets in our own country. You have an opportunity to really be prophets, not the other prophets that I have heard about. You have to believe in your own selves as unconditional human beings and as an unconditional country. It goes for every other African country. I was arguing that we don't have shared psyches in Africa, so we can talk about nation building. The soul for that is in civic education. The driver is in civic education to drive active citizenship. Now, that's when you need to solve fundamental issues like your constitution. You won't do it without together. Next slide, sir. Bonnie, can we move to the next slide? And I'm almost there, I'm summarizing. All right. When actually can our sovereignty said they have a shared national psyche? Once we shall have reckoned with our political conflicts of the past. Imagine my grandfather here was teaching me about Biafra. He has never been to a classroom. He has never crossed the boundaries of South Africa, and yet he knew about Biafra. And I've always asked myself, how best can I do that? And he said, son, you're the one who must cross the boundaries and learn and even know that you can learn something from the Biafrans themselves if you want to liberate yourself. Now, has that happened? That's why I said I was born in a struggle. Just to give you another example here, we will actually never have national psyches or shared vision until we have our own socio-economic and political agenda. Ask yourself, what is that? But you listen to everybody speak today and you're gravitating towards that. It's encapsulated in your constitution. So go ahead. The last but one slide, sir, please. Have you moved to the last but one slide? Yes. I said I want to christen all of you to be judicious activists today. What does this entail? Self-enlightenment, as Dele and Tim have said. Now, you need to keep on enlightening yourself. You need to keep learning, unlearning, relearning. That's what life is all about. Now, here is something even more fundamental. Judicious activists will respect life and the other's humanity, the other's viewpoint, the other's dignity. That's the way to succeed in life. I am actually animated about it because I have this pent-up energy wanting to say this thing to yourselves. It's not that you don't know this. You all know that. I'm just giving examples. Now, if I were to actually say more than that, you would actually outspoil it. So let me go to the last slide. Next slide, please. The principles are very clear. You have to be purposive unless you are a sycophant. The Fatherland Group does not need sycophants. It needs self-enlightened people who can actually now be the prophets about the change we need. And the change will start with ourselves. And I'm using the word prophet, slightly different from what other people actually say. And I said this is the last but one slide, so the last one, please. I want to give examples about what happened in South Africa. Now, when you get into constitutional writing and what have you, you need a judicial sponsor. In our case, remember, it's us in South Africa. We had Nelson Mandela. I see Tim has got Archbishop Tutu's a book at his back, but our sponsor was Nelson Mandela. For us, he actually was above reproach. For us, we don't know what the rest of the world would say, but we also had judicious champions. The current president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, was actually the champion who championed our constitutional assembly and the constitutional writing process. He was assisted by an unknown chap called Willie Hofmeyr in order to accommodate the very same people who were perpetrating apartheid on us. We had to accommodate them so that we feel that they should know we mean it when we say we want to change. Now, we had that in order to move, and we moved. We have read the case studies. I don't need to regurgitate the case studies themselves, but we still have challenges ourselves. We still have to build our nation. It takes civic education. It takes citizenship participation to keep on improving what we have started. We were lucky. We started from zero. We were lucky. Just like South Sudan has started from zero, they will get there. We started from zero as well. We chose not to reform a heresy. That's me, Tim. I'm so sorry. I'm so energetic about it. But this can be shared with whoever, just like we shared our papers. And Tim, thank you for allowing me to speak and to share more than I wanted to share.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Minyuku. You always know that whenever you're with us here, all of us, anybody who's listened to you before, would always want to spend as much time as possible. Thank you ever so much. It's a whole lot of material there. And I certainly, the discipleship side of it and the prophet side of it, I'm sure most of us will take it back to the fatherland. We'll be moving towards that prophet side of it. So thank you for that message.